Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most incredible and humbling things about being a chess content creator in the year 2025 is seeing just how many incredible people have gotten into the game of chess, including yourself. Over the last few years, I've had the opportunity to collab with artists, with musicians, with athletes, with entrepreneurs. I've had so many different conversations with so many incredible people at so many different venues all over the world. And my favorite thing to do is to generate a reaction like, that was unexpected. My two worlds are colliding. Well, in this video, two of your worlds will probably collide because we have Formula One crossing over with the world of chess. So if you're watching this video because you're a chess fan and you clicked on it, or you're a Formula One fan and it was recommended to you, or the YouTube algorithm just guessed, yeah, a couple of days ago, I saw this. In Baku, Azerbaijan, that's Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. And Timur Rajabov, Grandmaster, of course, former 27-2800 caliber player. And I was like, whoa. So what did I do? I commented on the Instagram post from the Ferrari page and said, hey, if you have the full game, I'm happy to take a look at it and review it on my channel. They didn't respond. You know, I get it. I don't race cars and I'm not a grandmaster. I fit none of the criteria. But then they posted the video and I'll be going over it today. So I've got two things to show you. First of all, we've got the matchup of all the matchups. We've got Leclerc-Hamilton. This game was played first, and then Team Ferrari teamed up versus the Grandmaster himself, Timur Rajabov. Now, he is the only one in this video who actually is a Grandmaster. The other two players simply get honorary Grandmaster titles for making it into a Gotham video. So, I will go over this game, then I will go over the next game. And if you like this video and you want to get into chess, very easy. Go to chess.com, probably a link in the description. Go play some games and see if you can be stronger than Charles and Lewis, or maybe Timur. So, this game started. Charles opened up with pawn to e4. Timur had just gotten done with telling them that they need to take the center, so we got e5, knight to f3. These are the two most common first moves for the white side. And now generally black develops the queen side knight to defend the center, but this is also a possible move, knight to f6. What a lot of beginners don't know here is that this is a real defense. It's called the Petrov defense or the Russian system. It's fine, but you should probably defend your center pawn, which Charles took right away. And here Lewis played d6, which is the best move. Kicks out the knight before taking back the pawn in the center. So the knight went over here to c4. Now the best thing for black to do here is to grab the pawn back, probably develop the bishop, and castle the king. In the beginning of the game, you want to put your knights and your bishops out into the center. I have recently been filming a slow run. You can look it up after this. Gotham slow run. Most of my games are decided in the first 15 moves because my opponents aren't following good principles. Lewis here plays this move, bishop g4. Very aggressive move. Very aggressive move. What this move does is it attacks the queen, and it looks like a good move because it is also protected by the knight. So then bishop is defended, and it's threatening to win white's most powerful piece. The problem is that he never actually took the pawn back. So he goes for the glory here, but Charles plays very correctly pawn to f3, kicks out the bishop because obviously the pawn is worth 1 and the bishop is worth 3. Bishop comes here, targets the knight, but the knight is also protected. So really, Charles won a pawn, and then he just got out, and now he's just chilling. So the best plan here for white would be, just like I said, finish up the development and castle and strengthen your position around the extra pawn. Another good option is, since you haven't put 2 pawns in the center yet, put 2 pawns in the center, get out your knights, get out your bishops. You've already got a good setup. You don't want to start messing with it before you give everybody else a chance. He does that, though. He plays the move e5. Again, I would say this is a bit of a beginner error because you're just attacking the knight and you think, oh, I'm just going to trade. Everything is good. But when you start violating principles, like making multiple moves with pieces before others get a chance or not getting your king out of the center, bad things are going to happen. So we see pawn takes, knight takes. Now, all of a sudden, black has the advantage. Why is that? Well, because black is now a few moves away from just getting another piece out and castling, and white isn't You know, like white hasn't gotten any pieces off the back rank yet. That knight went there, then back. Not the best move played by Lewis, but a perfectly reasonable move. Knight to c6, offering a trade. And now if you were to trade, you would have made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves with the knight. And then the knight would disappear. So black would have a lead in development. Knight went to c6, and Charles played this move d4, which is just a mistake. A very common beginner mistake, actually, which is bringing out your queen's pawn. But when the opposite queen can see as well, that's just going to be a free pawn. So now Lewis is about to win his pawn back and not have a bad position, right? Because here he didn't have a bad position, but he was down a pawn. Now he's going to have the equal position, and he's going to, you know, his pieces are all very, very well positioned. And he just took. And right away I was like, uh-oh, Charles is in trouble. He's in trouble. Why is he in trouble? Well, the queen is infiltrated. If you trade the queens, we've got this coming in as well. That's not very pleasant. So white is in some trouble here. I think white probably has to, like, start trading and hope for a queen trade and just make sure, you know, the king is going to be safe. The thing is, when your king is wide open in a chess game and you don't castle him in time, you want to trade off the opponent's most powerful piece. And in this case, yeah, trading off the queen would probably be a good decision. But Charles, again, moves something that has already been moved, potentially really weakening his position. He plays pawn to f4. And we see there the eval fall off a cliff. Just a total cliff. Why? Because black is now totally crushing. Black has the lead in development. Black is also targeting white's very weak king. So next time, Charles got to get his knights out and the 2 pawns in the center a little bit faster. Queen e4 check on the board. A fantastic move. When your opponent's king is weak and you would like to attack it, you do not want to trade the queens. You want to keep your most powerful piece on the board. It's the Ferrari of the position, if you will. Queen to e4 check. The king is under attack. The queen also sees this pawn, this pawn, this pawn, and that knight. I mean, it is an extremely powerful piece. So the bishop blocked, and now obviously we can just ravage the position. In fact, at this point, Lewis went to play this move, but Rajabov stopped him. I will remind you on the full screen page, Rajabov was sitting there. He was giving them some pointers. And so at this point, he told Lewis the better move, instead of taking the pawn and threatening the rook, was to actually develop another piece, which is Grandmaster wisdom. Like, what? Of course you take the pawn with the hanging rook. Who doesn't? Even I thought it was the best move. But the move bishop c5 is even stronger. Why? Well, you bring out another piece, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces out. You prevent white's king from ever castling. The king cannot castle into danger. Next, you're going to bring your rook, castle. You're going to have all your pieces playing. White's position is just not very healthy. What's funny is that queen takes is a totally reasonable move, but it runs into a very nasty counterattack, which is this. And now the queen is under attack, the rook is defended, and maybe you even lose a rook yourself. So you can actually get yourself into trouble here by accident, you know, losing a rook. And I have a feeling that is why Rajabov pointed this move out. Yeah, chess is a brutal game. I mean, you play a very logical move, all of a sudden you get Uno reversed. But we have bishop c5, and yeah, Charles is in a lot of trouble here. He makes another knight move. Just think about the knight moves. Knight here, knight here, knight here, knight here, knight here. That is 5 out of the first 11 moves made just with the knight. The rest of the pieces are on the home squares. Meanwhile, look at Lewis's position. Every single piece has gotten out. The bishops are out, the knights are out, the queens are out. That's why black is minus 3.8. I don't know how significant it is in Formula 1 to have a 4-second disadvantage. I feel like that is the difference between 1st and 5th place sometimes. But it's a huge disadvantage. Now, at this point, Charles starts picking up steam. He plays knight to c3. Good move. Attacks the queen. The queen's got to move now, and it was an easy move for white. The problem is white still can't castle. That's going to be the major issue here. Now, he plays queen d3. Another good move, offering a trade of queens. Why is this good? Well, if black were to trade, a lot of the advantage goes away, and then white could try to castle. The other thing is that here, knight to h4 somehow traps the queen, which is sort of crazy. And this is actually a really fascinating tactic for the intermediates watching. You should always look at checks, captures, threats. The queen is somehow totally stuck. It can't go here, 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 or here. It's just lost. But the position is so good for black that even if you were to lose your queen for just one bishop, look at this position. Charles has a 6-point material advantage, but the position is still better for black. Why? Because his king is super weak. He can move his queen out of danger, but before you know it, black is bringing in both rooks. And this is just a very, very instructive example of how you can be up a full queen, but if you don't take care of your king and your pieces, you will still be at a disadvantage. Material and king safety. Now, at this point, they start realizing Lewis has like 40 seconds on his clock left. So Lewis got a totally dominating position, but he spent a lot more time than Charles. And the thing is, when you play chess, yeah, that's what it comes down to. Who uses their time more efficiently to play the best moves that they can under the time constraints? You might be salty if you lose on time in a totally winning position, but your opponent just handled their time better, right? So now Charles goes into flagging mode. Queen takes, bishop takes. He's going to lose this. He absolutely can't do anything about it. He plays the move h3. Now Lewis can come in here with the knight. He does a fantastic punishment of the fact that white left his king in the center for too long. And now the king is going to go running king to d2. At this point, you can just bludgeon the king with the rooks, but obviously you take the free rook. Now Charles just has to survive like 10 more moves, and he's probably going to win this game on time. He goes bishop to d3. Now, when I see this, the easiest thing to do here with black, given that you are up a rook and a pawn, is to simplify the position. Just trade the pieces, bring the rooks, and that's how you're going to win. But if you have 20 seconds on the clock, you got to go for checkmate. You got to pin the bishop to the king, but he takes. He plays rook d8 check, king goes to c4. Now, out of nowhere, the king is an offensive piece. Obviously, white is totally losing, because if you simply do the numbers, black has an extra rook. And this knight is even going to get out, so it will just be a pure extra rook. Bishop to b6. The problem is Lewis doesn't have that much time. He plays knight to d5, does Charles. Now you can take this knight with either piece. But before Lewis is able to do that, Charles wins on time. Lewis's time runs out. I do just want to say, Lewis in this game played like a 1200 rated player. I mean, really. Like, he played one slightly inaccurate opening move, but after that, offering the trade here, immediately punishing the mistake from Charles, and Charles had to fight uphill the whole game. Queen e4 check was fantastic. He would have taken the pawn, which would have been completely fine. But after bishop c5, also, like, every move he made was quite solid. Not, he found this tactic. And basically, once you play the opening better than your opponent, you start punishing their mistakes. And he played really well. He just played slow. He just played slow. And as we know in Formula 1, you got to go fast, right? That's literally the point. So, great game from Lewis, and Charles, he's got to work on his fundamentals, because here he could have had a totally good position. And I don't know if they're ever going to watch this video. I hope they do. Shout out to you guys. 2 pawns in the center, quicker castling, white would have totally dominated. But by opening the position too quickly with your king in the center, you got yourself into trouble. Now, Timur Rajabov versus Team Ferrari. Here we go. e4, e5. Now, we're going to see the master here show them how it's done. Knight to c3. By the way, we see the same defense, but instead of capturing, and Rajabov has actually played this with black, I think, as well. He's just showing them good principles. He puts 2 knights in the center, e4. By the way, at some point before they sat down, I think Charles said something like, I think we can get him. Like, I think we can beat him. I think he was joking, but you would actually be shocked how many top-level athletes just have such a level of confidence from being dominant in their own field that they think it can translate to chess. Same with business leaders. I have spoken to people who are entrepreneurs, who are in executive positions in companies, and so many of them feel like they should be good at chess, or they don't like chess because they don't have an intuition for it. They don't like to lose. A lot of athletes, like, they don't like to lose a lot, In chess, the humbling feeling of losing half the time that you play is really weird for people, because that's not normal, And so I thought that was quite funny. Now, they played this move d5. This is a mistake. It's a mistake because you leave your pawn hanging here. In the opening, you should put 2 pawns in the center if you can. If you can, depends on if you're going to lose any of the pawns. Black, of course, should play knight to c6, not do anything crazy, and Rajabov here plays pawn takes, and when they take back, he grabs the pawn. So now white just has an extra pawn. Already on the 4th move, right? And so what white is going to do now is make sure the king is safe against any nonsense, probably get the bishop out, and probably castle. So knight goes to c6. Rajabov here could take, but instead he develops a piece, pins the knight to the king, and actually threatens to take it, right? So very nice idea. Now he's gotten a step closer to castling. They kick this knight out again with the move f6, but before you know it, white is now totally winning within 6 moves. But the thing is, Rajabov didn't do anything special here. Yes, he's a very special player. He's an exceptional player. But this is just principle violation, right? So f6, white even now has the immediate swift punishment queen to h5 check. And anytime you move your f-pawn with the king in the center, you are susceptible to this attack by the queen, whether you're white or black. And the point is that after this, you would take this. And if pawn takes, you would take the rook. Or even this. That's actually how good your position is sometimes. And in this case, that you can survive with black, but in many cases, you can't. So yes, the best option would be to take the rook. So Rajabov can play that. He also, they also attacked his knight, but a lot of beginners make this mistake. They attack a piece, but they don't think, where can that piece go? Or where can that piece take? And yeah, it's going to take this. Now they're in a lot of trouble. So after pawn takes, bishop takes, this is a triple fork. How quickly it goes downhill here for the gentleman. Bishop blocks. Now white here has a very easy decision to make. Do you take a rook and lose 3 points for it, or do you take a knight for free and lose nothing? 5 minus 3 or 3 minus 0. Almost all the time, not losing any piece is the better choice. Getting an absolutely free horse is the best move. White now has a 5-point material advantage, and white also is still a step closer to castling than black, and black's king is a little bit weaker than white's. You can check the king, of course, but then I can even trade the queens now with you, because I'm already winning. So here they played pawn to c6. Rajabov can give them a check. He can maybe give them this check. He plays a very simple move. His bishop is hanging. He brings it back. His next few moves are going to be castling, pawn in the center, get the bishop out, get the queen out. Even I know that, and I'm not a grandmaster, let alone a 2690 FIDE rated grandmaster. They play a nice move here, queen e7. They snipe the king in the center of the board. White has 2 choices. 3, 4. White can give up the bishop for free. That's the 4th choice. Then white can, I suppose, 5. White can also give up the knight for free. I don't even consider these moves as choices. White can move the king, and white can block. White can block with the knight or block with the queen. By far the most natural move here, and the move that I would recommend to beginners, is trading the queens. With no queen on the board, black poses no threat. And again, you have an extra rook. You'll convert the game in the long run. Rajabov plays the knight back. Why does he do this? He wants to keep the queen on the board because he wants to checkmate his opponents with his queen. He understands that this is the more passive move, but he's going to castle, and then he will move the knight, and then he's going to get his queen out, and then he's going to checkmate the guys with his queen. More on that later. They castle now. They've actually done a good job here. They just lost too many pieces in the process. And instead of putting 2 pawns in the center with black, which is generally what white wants to do, because white is supporting the center, you want to put your knights out, you want to get your bishop out, you want to castle with black. Either short side or long side. So, Rajabov brings the knight back, and he also castles. And now, like I said, pawn in the center of the board. Why? Why is he doing this? Why did he not take the bishop? Well, he wants to be taken so he can open up his rook. That's the trick up his sleeve. This is also a very well-protected pawn. This also brings the bishop into the game. This also lets the queen out to get some oxygen. So this is just a good move. Pawn in the center, even on the 13th move of the game, still good. They play a very tricky move here, c5, very tricky. The idea is that if you take it, you're going to lose your queen. The funny thing is, if you take it, you do lose your queen. But this is actually not even that bad of a position. It's still around equal, despite you losing a full queen. Why? Because you won material earlier, and black's king is still quite weak. And, okay, black could, win this knight. But if black doesn't win the knight, you're obviously winning. Shockingly, the Grandmaster from Azerbaijan does not blunder his queen. He plays pawn to d5, making sure everything is protected. And now you're going to see how clinically he finishes the game off. They play bishop takes. He plays bishop takes. They go here. And then they actually pick up the knight. They did spot this, but they lost a rook in the process. Now white is very easily winning. From this position, you should win the game with white in about 5 to 6 moves. A lot of you would start giving checks and so on. And yeah, probably that all wins. Hunt the king out, take a pawn, blah, 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 blah. What Rajabov does here is something more sophisticated. Grandmasters and even lowly international masters like myself, and even, players below me who have half a brain cell remaining, we know that you can brute force it. You can check. but you can do something called weaving a mating net. Oftentimes, when you have the luxury of having some more pieces or a more dominant position, you surround the opponent's king first. So we play bishop f4. Even on the 17th move of the game, Rajabov develops his bishop. He didn't have a chance to because he was too busy winning material. But the point is that now the king is under a lot of pressure. Actually, this very moment, the king has no legal moves. Isn't that quite interesting? The king can't go anywhere because of the way that white is controlling the position. Which means, in a couple of moves, if you just give a check or a check on one of these squares, or this square, or this square, or even maybe this square, like it's going to be mate. Right now, white is not threatening a mate, but he's going to bring his rooks. And Rajabov's still sticking to good principles. Queen c6 is forced checkmate. But this is a very nice move as well. He brings his rook to the game after bringing his bishop. And now black is really out of time. Queen to a8 is checkmate in one move. They actually stop it, which I was super impressed by. The other way to stop it is to play queen d6. Give up the queen and survive for a few more moves. They go here. And here he actually offered them a draw. Rajabov offered them a pity draw because for a Grandmaster, you do want to win every single game, but you also kind of want to be a good sport. You want to educate. You want to be a good ambassador for the game. One of the worst things to do in chess is to play somebody much better than you because you realize just how brain dead compared to them you are. And I felt this way when I played Magnus Carlsen. I did a collab with Magnus. I played him in a few Blitz games. And I just, no matter what I did, he was so much better than me. And I'm a really good player. I'm in the 0.00001% of chess players. I could beat every single person that has watched this video. But, and so that's why I think Rajabov was like, let's make a draw. It's not a big deal. But they both were like, nah, we want you to win. And they both spotted queen d8, checkmate. And the queen is supported by the rook. Obviously, the bishop in this case is not playing such a big role. But very nice game from Rajabov, who I felt stuck to very good principles. Look, he put two knights out. He punished the opening mistake. He developed a piece and attacked. And then black made a mistake, which he swiftly punished, saved his bishop, went back with the knight to preserve the queen. And it's quite iconic that the queen ended up going to d5 and then to d8. So it just went from d1 to d5 and then to d8. And in the process, he put pieces in the center. He developed all of his pieces. He avoided any blunders. And, he won a nice game. This was cool, man, because I've been seeing a lot of these clips. Like I've been seeing a lot of clips of players, playing chess in Formula One. Like I know Hamilton plays chess, Leclerc. Also, Leclerc just became the face of Chivas, I think is the name. I don't know if it's like a gin, a spirit, rum. I don't exactly know what it is. But the whole ad that they ran was with chess. And Joe Burrow recently did an ad read for body armor, I think. And Nemo was in it. And there was chess there too. Tons of cool people around the world. People who you look up to and watch on the screen, whether it's car racing, NFL, UFC, like I said, entrepreneurs, artists, musicians. So many people are playing chess. I would love to just organize, the biggest global chess collab ever in the future. And I've heard a lot about the Formula One guys, and who knows? If they're in Vegas next month, November, hit me up. Ferrari, hit me up. Let's do a chess collab. Let's do something cool. If not, I'll just stay home and I'll make a recap about it like I always do. That's all I have for you today. If you're new to the channel and you're still here, got a ton of chess content. If you're a returning viewer, shout out to you. Thanks for watching. And that's all. And in 2 days, I'm playing in Team USA versus Team India. Get out of here.